By 2005, nearly half of America's fleet sedans were one car, a boxy machine most people dismissed as a grandma cruiser. The Mercury Grand Marquis routinely crossed 300,000 miles, spawned a stealth 302 horsepower muscle variant, and outlived the very brand that built it. When Ford closed the line in September 2011, they were not just ending a model, they were burying the last of a breed Detroit may never build again. In 1979, a new kind of American sedan rolled out of Ford's St. Thomas assembly plant. The engineers behind it made a deliberate choice: stick with body-on-frame construction at a time when rivals were pushing for lighter unibody designs. The logic was simple: durability, easy repairs, and a chassis that could take a beating, whether from potholes, curbs, or the daily grind of fleet service. This was the birth of the Panther platform, the foundation not just for the Grand Marquis, but for its siblings, the Ford Crown Victoria and the Lincoln Town Car. Workers on the line called them the Panther Trinity, three cars sharing a common backbone, but each with its own personality. Under the hood, the Grand Marquis came alive with the 5.0-liter Windsor V8, a pushrod engine known for its steady torque and mechanical reliability. This engine, borrowed from Ford's muscle car lineage, gave the Grand Marquis a quiet authority on the road, while also making it easy for mechanics to keep running for decades. The platform's separate frame allowed damaged sections to be swapped out without scrapping the whole car, a detail that mattered to taxi operators and police fleets who valued uptime above all else. Inside, Mercury leaned into comfort, adding thicker, sound-deadening, and plusher trim than the Ford version. The result was a sedan that could soak up cross-country miles without rattling your teeth, and one that quickly became a favorite of airport shuttles and retirees heading south for the winter. The Grand Marquis's mechanical DNA, body-on-frame strength, the Windsor V8's reliability, and the shared Panther architecture set the stage for every upgrade, refinement, and reinvention that would follow. By the early 1990s, the Grand Marquis was ready for its first real transformation. The 1992 model year brought a sweeping redesign that traded sharp corners for gentle curves, a look Mercury called the aero style. The new shape was not just for show. Engineers managed to shave the car's drag coefficient by 0.02, a small number that made a big difference on the open road. The smoother lines meant less wind noise and a quieter ride, especially at highway speeds. Under the hood, the change was just as important. The old Windsor V8 stepped aside for the 4.6-liter Modular V8, a modern overhead cam engine that delivered a refined hum instead of a raw growl. This new engine kept the Grand Marquis in step with tightening emissions rules, while still offering the effortless cruising power drivers expected. It was on those long stretches of Interstate 75, heading south each winter, that the Grand Marquis began to carve out its niche with a new generation, the snowbirds. Retired couples packed their trunks and pointed the big Mercury toward Florida, trusting its soft ride and quiet cabin to turn a 1,000-mile journey into a gentle glide. For many, the trip became a ritual: coffee in the cup holder, sunlight on the dash, and the hum of the Modular V8 carrying them through another season. The Aero-era Grand Marquis was not just a car, it was a promise of comfort, reliability, and a little bit of old-school dignity, even as the world around it kept changing. A Mercury Grand Marquis gliding down the interstate doesn't just feel soft, it feels detached from the chaos beneath its tires. That sensation comes from a carefully engineered dance between metal and rubber, most of it hidden out of sight. At the heart of it sits the Yacht's linkage, a clever piece of hardware mounted to the rear axle. Instead of letting the heavy live axle wander side to side over bumps, the linkage uses a central pivot and two arms to guide the axle straight up and down. This keeps the car planted during corners and absorbs potholes without sending a jolt through the cabin. But the real magic happens where the body meets the frame. Thick, oversized rubber mounts act like shock absorbers for the entire car, isolating the passenger compartment from the ladder chassis. Engineers tuned these mounts to a soft durometer, letting the frame flex and twist while the cabin stays calm. The result? Road noise drops by about 4 decibels compared to rivals, a difference you can hear at highway speeds. For fleet drivers and snowbirds logging thousands of miles each year, that quiet, floating ride isn't just a luxury, it's the reason the Grand Marquis became the go-to for long hauls and endless shuttle runs. The hardware may be basic, but the comfort it delivers feels anything but. Fleet managers didn't buy the Grand Marquis for nostalgia or chrome. They bought it because the numbers made sense. In 2005, the Panther platform made up 42% of all American livery and taxi fleets. That's nearly half the country's professional passenger cars running the same basic chassis day and night. Each one averaged 35,000 miles a year, shuttling travelers to airports, hotels, and business meetings with barely a hiccup. Operators could count on 10,000-mile oil changes, 30,000-mile transmission flushes, and 60,000-mile suspension overhauls. Downtime averaged just over 2 days a year, mostly for scheduled service, not surprise breakdowns. Ask a fleet owner why they stuck with the Grand Marquis, and the answer is practical. Body-on-frame construction made collision repairs quick and cheap. Parts swapped easily with the Crown Victoria and Town Car, so a single storeroom could keep dozens of cars rolling. The cooling system was oversized, the brakes were built for abuse, and the interior was quiet enough for a tired driver to finish a 12-hour shift without a headache. These weren't just cars, they were assets, engineered to pay for themselves mile after mile. For fleets, reliability wasn't a promise, it was the business model. In 2003, Mercury engineers took a bold approach, overhauling the Grand Marquis' mechanicals without changing its familiar silhouette. The most significant change happened beneath the surface, where the old recirculating ball steering system gave way to a modern rack-and-pinion setup. This upgrade trimmed steering effort by 15%, making the car feel lighter on its feet and more precise, especially in tight parking lots or during sudden lane changes. At the same time, the front frame rails were hydroformed, a process that uses high-pressure fluid to shape steel into stronger, more complex curves. The result was a 12% gain in frame rigidity, helping the big sedan stay composed over rough pavement and through emergency maneuvers. Another quiet revolution took place at the rear axle. The shocks, once tucked inside the frame, were moved outboard, right under the wheels. This change improved control over bumpy roads and helped the suspension respond faster when loaded down with passengers or luggage. For fleet mechanics and restorers, these updates are easy to spot. A Grand Marquis with outboard shocks and a rack-and-pinion steering rack is a different animal from its predecessors. These changes did not just keep the Grand Marquis current, they laid the groundwork for the performance-focused Marauder, and proved the Panther platform could still adapt, even as the world around it moved on. The Marauder arrived like a thunderclap in the quiet world of the Grand Marquis. For 2 brief years, 2003 and 2004, Mercury took its most dignified sedan and gave it a heart transplant straight from the Mustang Mach-1. Under the hood sat a 4.6-liter dual overhead cam V8, pushing out 302 horsepower at 5,750 revolutions per minute. That was nearly 80 horsepower more than the standard Grand Marquis, and it showed every time the light turned green. The Marauder's 4-speed automatic, paired with a limited slip rear axle, meant power reached the pavement without drama, but with plenty of urgency. Performance wasn't just about the engine. Factory Tokiko shocks and 18-inch forged aluminum wheels gave the Marauder a stance and grip that no airport shuttle could match. This was still a Panther at its core, body on frame, rear-wheel drive, and built for the long haul, but now it could run with the muscle sedans of its day. Fewer than 1,500 Marauders rolled out of St. Thomas, making it one of the rarest full-size American sedans of the modern era. Owners talk about the surprise on people's faces when a big black Mercury leaves everything else behind at a stoplight. For those lucky enough to find one, the Marauder is proof that even the most sensible car can have a wild side. On September 15th, 2011, the final Mercury Grand Marquis rolled off the line at St. Thomas Assembly, carrying the last vehicle identification number in a lineage that stretched back more than 3 decades. Workers gathered around the car, some with tears in their eyes, as the plant doors closed for the last time. For many, the end was more than a job loss. It felt like saying goodbye to a piece of American engineering that had outlasted trends, brands, and even the Mercury name itself. Yet the Grand Marquis refused to fade away. Across the country, stories began to surface of cars passing 300,000 miles with nothing more than routine service. Retired plant workers, now owners themselves, swapped stories at local diners and car meets, proud of the machine they helped build. Online, a new wave of enthusiasts found fresh meaning in the old Panther chassis. Donk builders lifted Grand Marquis sedans high on 24-inch wheels, painting them in wild colors for weekend shows. Meanwhile, Grand Mark clubs organized annual rallies, where owners compared odometers and debated the best way to keep these cars running forever. The last Grand Marquis may have left the factory, but its story lives on, etched in vehicle identification number plates, celebrated at community events, and kept alive by the people who refuse to let a good thing die. Today, as new cars trade character for algorithms, the Grand Marquis still crosses 300,000 miles in daily use and inspires a loyal, growing subculture. Its blend of analog comfort, overbuilt engineering, and streetwise style stands as a challenge. Durability is not nostalgia, it is a choice we can demand again. Share your thoughts below.